Continuing on then with where we appear to be heading, electrification is our next stop, and we have already been talking about it in a sense with some of the other things that we've discussed. So these are interconnected. Sometimes you can do something more efficiently using electricity. Sometimes you cannot. So if you had a really inefficient fuel burning furnace from the old days, you might be better off just having a coal-fired electricity supply to your house in terms of what you're producing in the way of carbon emissions. So it does depend, but generally speaking, using up-to-date technologies, a lot of what we do, the services we need, the energy services we need, electrification is a better path. And let me illustrate that, if I may, with an emerging technology, and that is electric vehicles. Electric vehicles, we call them EVs for short. EVs began to appear about 15 years ago, a little bit here and there. And there have been long been federal incentives to try and kickstart the industry. And it has gone through some amazing transitions. And some of it is related to the improvements in battery power. Let me get you to a slide where we can look at an example of that. This is a battery price survey as used in automobiles. And remarkably, it wasn't all that long ago. I remember my neighbor bought a Model S Tesla in 2011. And so his combined cells and then the package together, basically you can see through time that the battery with this battery price survey is that we've gone from a total of $663 per unit and down all the way in 2019 to $156. That is an astonishing cost reduction curve if you think about it. They're less than 1/4 of what they were back in 2013. I remember when we were here and they said the sort of Shangri-La of this was if we could get under $200 by 2020. We went screaming past that 2 years early, and we're still seeing, I read the other day where we're still seeing reductions this year, and there's some of the decline in cost per year will, of course, reduce as we approach the origin of that graph. But this is a great success story. And it's so important because for battery electric vehicles to be competitive with gasoline and diesel powered vehicles, you have to get the battery cost itself down. That is the key. If you can't drive that cost down, you'll never reach parity. And so by some measures now, they've looked at, for example, a Model S and compared it with, say, a fairly well-equipped Camry, Toyota Camry, or Honda Accord. Similar cars in some ways, different concepts to be sure. And if you look at the cost of not only buying it, but then maintaining it over time, and then when you sell it, the cost is roughly the same of those three vehicles. Okay, and that is an amazing story. Actually, that was true 2 years ago, and I haven't seen the most recent data, but I know that the battery cost curve being driven down is going to really put a lot of pressure on the automakers who are focusing mostly on just the internal combustion engine type of conventional motor or even the diesel. Okay, so that is the first thing. The battery prices are coming down. As all technologies, almost when you mass manufacture them, you do drive the price down. And so, was it worth subsidizing those cars? The federal government was subsidizing them fairly heavy in these early years. A lot of people would say, "No, you're picking winners. It's the wrong thing to do." But now we have a global marketplace where we're pretty close to parity. and really only in about 15 years, even a little less than 15 years of serious development. And so that will change, excuse me, the world that we know. Now, excuse me. So with the electric vehicles, then cost matters, the price itself. And so, back in 2013 and so on that graph we showed you earlier, yeah, you could not make a vehicle for anywhere close to a similar sized vehicle that was an internal combustion engine or even a diesel, which are usually a little more expensive. So I want to show you something else, though. This is kind of a fun story. If you look at this slide here, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Just kind of pause it for a moment and read the top first. I'll read it with you, actually. In comparing how far one could drive a car, utilizing either the annual production of 1 acre of corn ethanol. In other words, you make a fuel out of corn, which is part of what drives us right now, okay? So if you make a production of 1 acre of corn ethanol, or the annual production of electricity from 1 acre of solar panels with an otherwise similar electric car, choose the best response. Now take a little bit of time and just kind of look at those. Okay, if you haven't decided, just pause it so you don't have to listen to me blab on, and you can decide which one you like. Okay, ready? All right. The answer, most students will look at that for a while and they'll give me different answers, but a very rare answer is E. And by the way, those got mixed in. If you have to look at those really carefully, I just realized that I have a better sequence. For some reason, when I cut and pasted, didn't quite go right. But it's still, the point is, E, you can drive more than 100 times farther on electricity from solar panels than you could on the production of ethanol, corn ethanol, on an acre. Okay, more than, and I did some kind of a simple model, not real sophisticated, but I just looked at U.S. average corn yield per acre, and I looked at what a solar panel would produce in the way of electricity in megawatt hours, and that was back using assumptions of solar panels 8 years ago. Now they're a lot more efficient. I used, I think, 12% efficiency. Now they're 19%. And I also left some gaps for people to maintain the field and so on. It was actually about 270 times farther on electricity from solar panels. I kid you not. Okay. Some of it was that the sun is captured all year long by the panels. That helped. But one of the things that's really clear here is the inherent inefficiency of photosynthesis. Now, that might surprise you. We're often taught that nature is more efficient and more wise and everything. In some ways it is. But in this case, it's not. And the reason why that's the case is because when early plants evolved, they did so in a carbon-rich atmosphere, carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere, and they didn't have to utilize it very well. And so at the most, the photosynthetic process can capture, in the form of photosynthesis, photosynthates, upwards of maybe 1% to 2% of all solar radiation coming in. Okay, whereas good solar panels can capture much higher percentages. That's part of it. There's a whole bunch of other reasons. Take my class on energy, environment, society if you're curious about that. But in any case, so what this tells us is that in terms of land use, if we were wanting to power our transportation with a non-fossil fuel, and we decided let's do it with corn ethanol, which is kind of how we do it anyway in the United States. About 10% of our gasoline, our fuel in our automobiles now comes from ethanol in Oregon. But that's really a very inefficient way to use land. And in fact, we couldn't power all the cars in the United States on if we used every acre of corn land that's possible. So not really a good strategy for the long haul. Popular, and if you're in Iowa, and why do we do that then? The states that grow a lot of corn have 2 senators, and they tend to vote for corn ethanol subsidies. And for a long, long time, they had received those. Some of those have been phased out, I understand, in recent years. And you know where the caucus starts in presidential primaries. It starts in Iowa. Okay, so let's go back. Now, some other things we can do is to rapidly reduce fuel-generated electricity, and instead replace it with renewables, and integrate diverse sources for, well, let's go back. So what we're talking about, again, instead of coal and natural gas, so those are the main two. We don't use gasoline or diesel much for that, okay, and nationally. So instead of using those, use renewables, wind, solar, hydro, for example, which are all in their own way fairly competitive. Another is to integrate diverse sources for reliable electricity. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, and again, I think it's a good time to finish this video. I'm going to overlap a little bit and go into that because that's a whole discussion to itself.